Assalamualaikum, my name is Muhammad Fazli bin Muhammad Farouk. My student ID is 2021480582 and I'm from class BA 242 3B. I'm going to present to you about capital structure. So what is capital structure? Capital structure of a company refers to its capital mix, which include both debt and equity. The term equity refers to a company's common and preferred stock, as well as retained earnings. Short-term borrowing, long-term debt, and a portion of the principal amount of operating leases and redeemable preferred stock are examples of debt. The debt ratio, the debt to equity ratio, and the long-term debt to capitalization ratio are significant ratios used to examine capital structure. Investors can evaluate the strength of a company's capital structure with the aid of credit agency ratings. Next, we move to how to determine optimal capital structure. Optimal capital structure is the best combination of debt and equity financing that maximizes market value while minimizing cost of capital. Debt financing in theory has the lowest cost of capital because it is tax deductible. However, excessive debt increases the financial risk to shareholders as well as required return on equity. As a result, businesses must determine the optimal point at which the marginal benefit of debt equals the marginal cost. I'm going to present to you 4 steps to determine optimal capital structure. So the first step is find different capital structure with debt equity ratio. And the second step, find the cost of capital and the cost of debt at different level of capital structure. The third step is find the weighted average cost of capital, WACC. And the last step is to reach optimal level of capital structure through graph. There are a lot of factors affect capital structure, but I'm going to present 4 only. The first one is business size. Scale and size affect a company's ability to raise capital. Then we have competition. More equity shares should be included in the capital structure of a company with more competition. Next, we have creditworthiness. Any company with a history of timely loan repayment will be able to raise funds on less stringent terms and at lower interest rates. It enables them to repay their loans on time. Last but not least, we have stage of the life cycle. A business in its early stages is more vulnerable to failure. In that case, they should finance their operations with a greater proportion of ordinary share capital. Capital structure decision. Financing decisions in general involve 3 issues. The first one is the total amount of long-term capital required. This is related to the company's capital budgeting decision. The second one is funding sources from which funds are raised. The third one is total fund composition, the proportion of each specific source in total capitalization. Financial distress. Financial distress occurs when a company or individual is unable to generate sufficient revenues or income to meet or pay its financial obligation. This is typically due to high fixed costs, a high percentage of liquid assets, or revenue that is susceptible to economic downturns. Absolutely, there are a lot of ways to get out of financial distress. The first one is identify top sources of financial stress. If financial anxiety is weighing on you, start by identifying the specific issues keeping you up at night, whether the problem is credit card, debt, or upcoming bill payments. Pinpointing the source of your stress will help you determine your next move. Next, be strategic about reducing debt. If you have balances on multiple cards, consider using the snowball method, which is paying off your debt one by one, focusing on the smallest first. The third one is build an emergency fund. Having money set aside for an emergency such as car repairs, job loss, illness can go a long way towards relieving financial anxiety. However, building an emergency fund can seem overwhelming, especially one with enough to cover 3 to 6 months of expenses. The integration of tax effect and financial cost distress. In this graph, we can see that as the present value of financial distress cost increases, present value of tax shield on debt also increases in response. Thus, we can understand how both are integrated with each other. Due to the current value of the minimal distress cost, the likelihood of distress in these circumstances is low. The present value of these expenditures will therefore rise with every tiny increase in the debt's worth. It will eventually equal the growth in the present value of the tax shield. Here, the tax shield will boost bankruptcy rates significantly, which will lower firm value. Next, we move to agency cost of equity. The agency cost of equity is the cost that a company incurs as a result of issues raised by its management and shareholders. For example, the cost of problem caused by a conflict between shareholders and management's overall interest. An agency cost of equity is also included in information asymmetry. Shareholders bear such a cost when managerial interests do not align with their own. Managers, for example, may make decisions that reduce the firm's value. The shareholder will then take measures to control the problem, which will increase the agency cost of equity. The cost of monitoring the process to prevent present managers from making bad decisions is somehow included in the agency cost of equity. Pecking order theory. So, the pecking order theory states that companies prioritize their sources of financing from internal financing to equity and consider equity financing as last resort. Internal funds are used first, and when they are depleted, debt is issued. When it is not prudent to issue more debt, equity is issued. Last but not least, we have the signaling hypothesis. The dividend signaling hypothesis implies that dividends contain information that can be used to signal the market about the firm's future prospects, namely its earnings. That's all from me. Thank you. I'm Muhammad Fazli bin Muhammad Farouk. Sign out.